Hey y'all, welcome back to the Zeitcast. This is a very special episode of the Zeitcast. So I am right now in a room at the Holiday Inn Express in Grand Junction, Colorado. We'll say more about that in just a second. And I'm with my dad. This is my dad, Dr. Ron Martin. And I just want to say, I don't know if you know this, Dad, I think that you might be my most requested guest for the Zeitcast.
Wow.
That's true. No, so many people. I'm thinking of Curtis Martin, if you happen I think shares our last name, has over the years like, you got to have your dad on the podcast. Some people ask to have you on the podcast. And today, you guys, at the time that we're recording, is actually my dad's 76th birthday. I think that's amazing. So, happy birthday. We've been celebrating your birthday today.
Yeah, had a great meal.
We had a great meal.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing day and an amazing week. Do you want to say a little bit more about what we're doing here this week?
Well, actually, I serve as an associate world missions representative, and we have been doing missions rallies. We've done 5 in the last 5 days.
Yeah.
And I feel it.
We have 5 in the last 5 days, which is pretty amazing. Dad is still a preaching machine. So basically, this week he asked me to come along and help a little bit. So I've just been what am I exactly? Sort of driver. I handle the bags, bodyguard. What am I exactly? What am I doing here?
I don't know. You just been everything. Some would call you an armor bearer.
Yeah.
There's just all kind of titles. But you sure have been a huge help.
Oh, that's so nice. Well,
and it's been a special time for father-son.
It has. It's been really special. Dad still gets around great, and he preaches all the time, but he is having a little trouble with his knee and stuff too. So just I worry about him a little bit when he goes on longer trips. There's like this week, because this week's been a lot. Like we've been a lot of places. We've done a lot of things.
And been able to come back to an area where I lived and served as an administrative bishop from 1998 to 2002, as you know.
Yes.
And see a lot of the sights. There's just so much to see out here. And it's just been great. Feels like coming back home.
Yes. And we have crammed a lot of life in, y'all. Last night we were driving from Salada to Grand Junction and hit a detour. So we're kind of got here like 3 o'clock in the morning, going through side roads through the mountains and snow and wildlife. And it's been, pretty epic. I love that we get to have these kind of adventures. So, really, Dad, I'm thinking like where would I even want to begin? So how about this? We'll start like really, really broad for people who don't know who you are. Who is Ron Martin? Who is Ron Martin?
Who is Ron Martin?
Yeah, just like in 2-ish minutes. Who is Ron Martin?
Wow. How do I answer that question? Who is Ron Martin? Well, I am the son of a preacher.
Yeah.
And you're the son of a preacher.
Mm-hmm.
So we got three generations of preachers here. Wow. You want me to talk about what I've done?
Whatever you want, whatever comes to your mind.
I've had an incredible life. I tell people if my life were to end today, it's been a great ride. I've been an evangelist in my young days. I served in administration with the Church of God for 30 years. I have been a pastor. Now 10 years working with world missions, which is a passion of my heart. Ministry is a passion of my life. I often tell people, Paul talks in 1 Corinthians, I think it's 16 and 15, about those who are addicted to the ministry. And I tell people, I've got an addiction. I'm addicted to the ministry, and I have to have a fix. So I guess you're talking to a druggie today. I'm addicted.
I really like that riff that you've used this week, and well, because of course, at this point in your life, being 76, a lot of people would not be out every weekend preaching, because that is really important to say. You're out doing what you do basically every weekend still. Like you
about
haven't
every
really slowed
weekend.
down.
Well, I don't have the office hours I had to keep previously. I don't have the stress
Yeah.
of the administrative roles. I go to an office 2 afternoons a week usually. That pretty much takes care of my office schedule. So it's a very much more laid back schedule during the week. So I can rest. I tell people my mindset is more like 55, but my body just does not agree. So I have to get the rest, and we sure haven't gotten any this week.
No, we have not. We have not got any rest this week. We've been going for sure. And I'm just I'm carrying the bags. I'm driving the car, and I'm tired.
Yeah, but you haven't been preaching.
No, I haven't been preaching. That's what I'm saying. I haven't even been preaching.
It's an interesting fact. They say, I don't know how they come up with these stats, but they say that to do a 30-minute sermon, the stress on the body is equal to an 8-hour workday.
Yeah. I think a lot of people wouldn't believe that. They don't know that it's all the adrenaline levels and the rise and the decrease, like whatever. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Because I know it's still to this day, like it wipes me out. It's interesting, like especially a lot of what I do, if so many things will be new, and so especially like a new sermon on Sunday means about Wednesday I start to become normal again. It's just an intense thing.
Well, as you know, this week you've got to hear the same one for 5 times. You could preach it by memory.
You've done really great. It's a great sermon. It's a great sermon. I love that you because I think you talk about that a lot publicly and privately, and I love that the things that you say about, because I feel like a lot of people as they get a little older, they you can't help but start thinking a little more retroactively, and they do that with a lot of regret. And I feel like you always say from a very genuine place what you say about it's been a great ride. If there were no more, like there's just a lot of joy and gratitude.
Yes,
for it.
there is. Doesn't mean there hasn't been some hard places. There have been.
Yeah.
We all have those in life.
Yeah.
But that's life.
Yeah.
And the point of my life now, I'm at the point in my life, I enjoy what I'm doing. I still have reasonably enough good health. I don't want to just sit around.
Yeah.
Neither do I want to work a 40, 50, or 60-hour work week as I have once done.
Yeah.
But I do want enough to keep me active and not just sit around and die.
Yeah.
I want to stay busy.
Yeah. That was what part of what I was going to ask you is what you say to that in terms of I love again the riff about being addicted to ministry, but why you keep doing what you're doing the way that you do it.
Yeah. That's why. But again, it's my passion.
Yeah. I feel that.
You don't. For me, ministry is not a profession; it's a call.
Yeah.
And you don't ever lose the call.
Yeah. No, and I felt that like this week, and you joke about doing the same sermon, but the truth is, I always know that what you do, it comes from a place of it's what you deeply believe and what you believe in, and it doesn't. I don't think it's ever been a job for you. Like you've never thought of it as like kind of a ministry as a thing that you do. It's always been.
And I do have more sermons.
Yeah, I know you do. No, it's a great sermon. Like you and anybody. If a comedian goes on tour, on that tour, they do the same material. This is what you do. You've got and you're raising money for a particular project right now in the Ukraine. So there's a specific reason right now. There's so many things I want to talk about in terms of like your life and like whatever, and I'm happy for this to go wherever that you want it to go or wherever it needs to go. I can tell you this, Dad, like one of the things, and I feel like I would want to say this with this preface. I feel like anybody who knows anything about me knows, however many people that I know, like my circle in terms of my life really revolves around, Nicole, the kids, you guys, and I have dear, precious friends, people like Joel and Tosh, and number of people who are watching, and stuff now. But I just feel like I'm very. I mean, well, for one, I'm an only child, which probably explains a lot of things to people.
Yeah, you were spoiled rotten.
Yes. Yeah, I'm an only child, but it's the kind of thing where, I mean, even living in Oklahoma and you guys being in North Carolina, you've never, at no point in time have you ever been less a part of my life. I don't think about you less on any given day. I think I realize the further I go, what a unique thing it is that even something as basic as that you guys you would always be interested in what's happening in my life. Like, I don't think there's ever a time that I would call, like, you wouldn't want to know what was going on, but I don't want to hear about that. Like, you always want to know.
Frankly, we don't hear from you enough.
Which absolutely everybody who knows me would say that. And it's funny because I talk to them a lot more than I do anybody else. But but I love to talk, and we do talk about like so many things. But I think, one of the things that I realize, I guess, the further I go, how unique it is and how different it is for so many people is that, I mean, as I've grown older as people do, and as happens, I change in my ways, and so obviously, like, we're not the same on everything. And I feel like for so many people, if once they develop any sort of differentiation, psychologists would use that phrase, differentiation with their parents, then they don't have a relationship with their parents. And at this point, it just makes me so sad that so many people, like, it's kind of like if they don't agree on everything, that they can't be close. And I feel like I couldn't be closer to you guys than I am, or trust you more than I do. But that's not based on needing to think the same way all the time.
Oh, I disagree with you on a lot of things. But it doesn't make me love you or care about you or for you any less. That's just a given.
Yeah.
You are my son. You will always be my son. It doesn't matter what we agree or disagree on. You are my son. Yeah. And I relate that to our Heavenly Father. Our Heavenly Father loves us regardless. He has an unconditional love for us.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how families can have what am I looking for? I don't understand how families can have such divisiveness.
Yeah.
And cut one another off because they just don't agree. That's just foreign to me. I was not raised in that kind of home.
Yeah.
That's just beyond my understanding.
Well, it's interesting because you obviously were raised in, and certainly generationally more so than I was. What you were raised in was more conservative, was more strict. But it's interesting that you felt like. Clearly, you feel like it was also a loving environment, while there were a lot of rules, yes. And more like in your generation there was with mine, yes. In the Pentecostal church. I just think that's just one of the things I find, like, I don't know, and I don't even know where I want to go from there, but I just feel like it's. I know what a lot of people I feel like are desperate for is to feel like they have elders and have a relationship with elders. But it's like if there's not complete ideological agreement, oftentimes I feel like that's not possible. That's just not how our relationship works. I feel like we're able to talk about a lot of things, and really for the most part, it doesn't mean there's never difficult conversations. But I like talk about a lot of things. We did late last night up the road, pretty casually, with a lot of laughter and a lot of like, I don't necessarily see it that way, but I see where you're coming from. I hear you, and like it not be. And it not have to feel terrible,
true.
to not see everything the same way.
That's true.
So that's just a gift I really celebrate about.
I'm sorry that you're wrong, but
there we go.
You go in your way, and I'll go in his.
But I do, like, I feel like that's such a a special thing, and I just especially wish, because I know it's not news to anybody. It's an especially polarized time. I wish more people were able to have that experience of, being able to know what it is to love and to be loved by people in family or in community without having to necessarily agree about everything.
Yes, absolutely.
So, what do you? I don't know. So many things I'd love to ask. I want to be sensitive. We have been traveling a lot for the last few days, so we're really tired. So I think our brains are tired and like all that. What do you kind of? So you're 76 today, and I feel like on every birthday you can't help but be, again, everybody's a little bit reflective about their life and that kind of thing. What kind of stuff has just been run through your mind about it as you're turning 76? What do you think about it? In terms of the journey you've had, things that feel good, or things that or if they're regrets or whatever. Like what are you feeling today on your birthday?
Well, again, you're asking me while I'm very tired.
Right.
I do tell people that the older I get, the more reflective I become. And I do have a lot of fond memories. I have a lot of fond memories of the way I was raised.
Yeah.
Yes, I was raised in a very conservative home, but I was raised in a very loving home. Loving parents, and raised to love God and to love people. Of course, I was raised as a PK, a preacher's kid.
Yeah.
There are some unfortunate cases where those who were raised as a pastor's child had very bad experiences, and it greatly adversely affected them. It did not adversely affect me. I had a good experience. Doesn't mean everything was great or perfect, but it was good. As I mentioned or alluded to earlier, all of my years of ministry, there have been some difficult places. But as I look back over the years, I see things that I went through, and at the time they were very difficult, and I wondered and would even question God. It's okay to question God. And I would question God, why am I having to go through this? I didn't understand why I was having to go through it. But now, as I look back over my life, I understand why I went through a lot of things. It was preparing me for things that I would have to deal with later in life. And I think that's a great deal of what our life is, if we allow it to be. Is a learning experience that helps prepare us to grow and be able to handle things later on, mature, and be strong later in life, and also in ministry. Things I have experienced and gone through has helped me to be able to help other people that have experienced similar things. So there is just so much that I have experienced that I look back on it, and yes, I didn't understand it at the time, but it was good for me. So we need to, something I came across some time ago that I really like is you can't have a testimony without a test. So you've got to have the test in life. If you're going to have a testimony.
No, I can see that. How would you say? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, when you're in those more reflective moments about like your own journey, how would you say you've changed the most?
As I have grown older, I choose to think and believe naturally you do become more mature. And I think that I have developed a broader perspective on life, and I have come to. It doesn't mean that, again, I agree. Just like between me and you, that I agree with things, but I have become more accepting to say, well, that's just the way it is. And I have to live with that, rather than to throw up a wall.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. If I could give this as an observation there, I see you frequently. I feel like you decide to be an encourager most of the time, which I think is interesting, because I feel like that is, I'm only 44, so I'm not nearly as far along, but I feel like that is something that I come to see, is like this idea that, there's so many things about other people, about the world, you actually can't change. There's something not up to you. And so what I see you so often doing is I feel like you adopt a posture of encouraging people where you can, and in a very fatherly way, not just to me. I feel like it's like it's more of a fatherly posture, like ministry, like whatever, to life.
Yes.
Like doing that more so from a place of encouragement than a place of,
Well, you can't live people's lives.
Yeah.
So the best you can do is try to counsel them, encourage them, support them in every way that you can, and be there for them.
Yeah.
And be merciful. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, I love that, and I don't know, I just see you, I see you choosing that posture a lot in a way that's very encouraging to me, that's really hopeful to me, almost in a way that seems like the older you get, the more that way you want to become. And I feel like, and you'll even make jokes about it sometimes, like that you don't want to be a grumpy old man, that you don't want to be like whatever, like you're
but
kind of
Linda,
like,
your mother says you're already a grumpy old man.
Well, but you consistently try not to be, and I like and I appreciate that. Maybe, okay, before I say anything more about that, I'll ask the other question in terms of asking. I love that, by the way. I didn't know what you'd say in terms of how you've changed the most. What would you do differently about the road thus far? Like, what, big picture wise, is there anything in particular you think like you wish you'd have done differently?
I guess in my earlier days, I would have been less judgmental, less critical. I don't know that I ever was majorly that way.
Yeah.
But again, and it sort of goes back to the question you just asked me. I think as I have grown older, I'm more mellowed out. And I have seen people, I've known people, the older they get, they just become mean.
Yeah.
Grouches.
Yeah.
It's no wonder nobody likes them. I am a people person.
Yeah.
I like people.
Sure.
And I want to be around people.
Yeah.
And if you want to be around people and want people to like you, you're going to have to like people. I don't know whether that really answers your question.
It does. Actually, I hear what you're saying, and also I feel like it's sort of it's an interesting answer to me, because I feel like on the one hand you're saying in your younger years you would wish maybe you were a little less judgmental, a little more open, like whatever. But at the same time, it also seems like that's what years do to you, though. Is if you allow it. Which is what I'm saying. Not everybody allows it. A lot of people get older and don't and don't, Richard Rohr has that wonderful language of first, second half of life. Like, I think a lot of people get older, but don't get to that second half kind of maturity where it is more, where they become more like fathers. It's like they're kind of they stay locked in kind of that first half mentality. So it's like you kind of have to let people's stories, because that's what I always see, like with you, is you're always genuinely interested in people. And one of the things I've loved most about how you do ministry, and this is really true. My dad being a bishop, language used to be overseer in the Church of God, like whatever. I've always observed that, okay, like you're not more, and this really has left a mark on me. Like, you were never more attentive to, you wouldn't be more attentive to a pastor with several thousand people than a pastor has 12 people. That's not who you are. Like, you wouldn't be more concerned about that person's life than the other.
That's true.
You are equally invested with.
That's true. I always felt like, as a pastor of a local church, or as an administrative bishop serving over pastors, that I had an obligation to serve all of them equally the same.
Yeah.
There's no big I's and little U's. That's always been extremely important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I just see that in terms of like the way you interact with people, and generally even out of the pulpit, is just genuinely being interested in people's lives and their stories. Like, you never meet anybody you're not interested in. If you want to have a conversation with my dad, I promise you it's easy to do because you'd be interested, and I think that those are I feel like a lot of those things are just very, those are things that are very hardwired at me. Like, it doesn't matter what's, that's something I feel like it's like almost like in my DNA to, of course I'm going to be the last one in most rooms I'm going to be in, because anybody who needs to talk, I'm going to want to talk to, because that's just kind of, I feel like that's what's been modeled to me. Like, if somebody feels like they need help, if they feel like they need somebody, to care for them in some way, then, that's what you do.
Well, I also had the privilege of growing up under a father, a minister, that was the same.
Yeah.
He was a people person. He cared about everybody.
Yeah.
My dad would give you the shirt off of his back.
Yeah.
I've seen him help people and reach out to people that were very unusual people, very poor people, and treat them all the same as anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was modeled to me. And as I said, he was a very people-oriented person.
Yeah. That's what my grandpa died when I was, the month I turned 3, so I didn't know him well, but that's what I know of him. That's who he was. I love that. It's kind of, I feel like it's funny to say anything commenting on our relationship like that would be interesting, but I do think part of what is interesting about it for people is that, that this this goes both ways, because especially for people, because as you know, a lot of the people that I know and love have been in some level of a journey where they're disillusioned with the church, hurt by the church, have some kind of experience or whatever, to where then they kind of don't know what to do with any of it. So I think in the same way that like some people, like it would be unique to them, like your posture as a dad, pastor, like whatever, that to be open in the ways that you are, in difference and all that, that kind of goes the other way too. Like, because like, for example, I feel like as I get older, I feel like I'm only more grateful and thankful for where I come from, in all the ways that you guys are in me. And there's this wonderful phrase I use sometimes that we've talked about in the podcast before, of kind of like, transcend and include. It's kind of like, hey, maybe there are some other things that I've picked up that have become important to me that weren't entirely in my Pentecostal heritage, the sacramental thing, like whatever, like there's some other things I picked up, but I never feel like I've left any of that behind, or even had like a desire to replace it. In some ways, I kind of feel like the further I go, all the good things that I've received there only become like more important to me. So I feel like a lot of people, and I'm not speaking judgmental of that, but if they have had a negative experience or something, have this sense of like, well, then all of a sudden the whole thing becomes negative to them in some way, which has not been my sense of any of it at all. Is that it's kind of like, well, there's some things I've carried with me, some things I probably don't carry quite the same way, but I really honor where I come from. and honor.
I've seen
you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, and again, I'm not saying that like the way to mandate what other people should do, but I just think, and because I get, that I feel like when you have a relationship like ours, where there is love and there's care and mutuality and all those kinds of things, then obviously that's a lot easier to do, because I was never cut off or kicked out or whatever. And I'm trying to make it sound like that. I don't ever feel like anybody's ever like, I've never felt run off by anybody from doing anything that I was doing. I'm kind of like, sometimes I felt like I've been supposed to go into other spaces. It's very interesting, because like I feel like what I've known of you all of your life, the way the way you pray at the end of the night, the way I know you take seriously prayer and the voice of God and being led by the Spirit and all these kinds of things. All of that is as valuable to me as it's ever been. I feel like sometimes it looks somewhat different, but I like those values are like just as deep in me as ever, that God speaks, and I want to know what God's saying, and I want to be in tune with that, and I don't know. So it's just interesting, like the ways that again, I'm sure we are tired, but the continuity and discontinuity of like, hey, like the expression may be different, but I feel like being in and around people who taught me how to listen to the Spirit, it's like that's everything to me. Like I feel like that's, if someone asked me who's Jonathan Martin, I mean, like that's where I'd almost have to start. It's like, well, I grew up in a place where the whole thing was for everybody was listening to the Spirit and following the Spirit, and that I still feel like it's like that's like ground zero for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Well, I'm glad that we're here. I'm glad that we get to have a week like this. And I tell you, it really has been, it's authentically been joy. It's been a joy for me, like getting to just help you in practical, logistical ways, just do ministry stuff for a week. And it's really fun. Like I really love doing it.
Well, it's just been a great father-son week.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever have an opportunity quite like this again or not.
Yeah.
But it's been an experience I'll never forget and will always cherish.
Yeah. Same for me. And we've done some cool things before. I mean, we've been to Kenya, we've been to Lebanon, we've been to the West Bank, we've done all these kinds of things. But I am very mindful when the rare occasions this kind of opportunity comes up. I don't know how often that we'll get to do it. But that's an interesting thing too, like for me, because I feel like I know that there's a thing that I'm supposed to do, and I'm trying to do it as best as I know how. But it's very comfortable for me, like to just sort of, I don't know how to put it, like I've never been the person who, like, I'm kind of sitting out during a sermon thinking about what I would be doing if I were giving the sermon. It's very comfortable for me to be in the support role of like, hey, like I'm out here helping my dad. Like I really do love that. Just the kind of, no, like I'm here to support what you're doing. And I feel like on some of the trips we've got to do before, you supported me in things that I'm doing. And so, I don't know, I just think that's a really beautiful gift to just be able to go and just kind of.
Oh, I love it. And, none of us, regardless of what our age, we never know how much more time we have.
That's true.
But the older you get, you become even more conscious of the fact you don't know how much more time you have.
Yeah, that's right.
So, again, I value this, I think, more than ever before.
Yeah.